Hi guys, and welcome back to another engine build video, and I'm glad to see you here. So today we're going to be building a 1904. We've done this a couple different ways. I used in a magnesium case once, and that's because I had a good magnesium case. Right now I'm kind of out of cases that are good, that are dual relief. So for this one, we elected to buy a brand new Autolinea case, and we went bubble top. And we're only going, this is a 74 stroke by 90.5. And we could have gone bigger, okay? We could have gone to the 78 stroke by 90.5, or we could have gone to the 78-92 thick wall, or we could have went even bigger than that and go to the 78 or 82. I think that all will go right in this crank case. The reason we wanted to stay small on this is because we did not want to buy new heads. I did get a donation of some heads from somebody that had a bunch of dual port heads, because to be honest, when you go to take a dual port head into a shop to have it resurfaced, new valves put in it, you know, and new valve guides that are usually bad. By the time you get done paying for all those things, you could buy a brand new Autolinea head, usually most places. So a lot of guys are not using the used heads, and I think, to be honest, a lot of used heads are pretty worthless unless you have valve grinding equipment. So we have valve grinding equipment, so we wanted to use some good used heads. I think they're Brazilian casted, the ones we have. I don't have them here yet, but we're going to talk about them a little bit later, what we did to them. But we will be showing those later in when we do the actual build. This is basically the parts video. We do a parts that we're going to put in it video. We do a video on the actual build, and then we'll actually have it running and put in the car. And then at the end, I'll take all three of those videos and conglomerate them together and do what we call a full build video, which has everything all in the same, so that if you're looking to build an engine, you can use that as a reference and just go through the whole thing and just surf through it and find everything you're looking for. These are kind of made for just the subscribers to, you know, entertainment to watch as, you know, as we do things. So again, why did we go with the bubble top case versus the stock case? The stock cases right now, it's about, by the time I paid for machine work in an original stock case, it would probably cost me more than it would to just buy this one. So that's one reason. The second reason is aluminum is stronger than the magnesium. It's stronger. It's a denser material. It does not move as much. So what happens in a Volkswagen is air-cooled engine is there's that heat. It gets very hot, and you know, as they warm up, and there's movement. So as you have two opposing cylinders going from each other, there's movement in the middle of the case. And that was basically one of the reasons that VW engines wouldn't last more than about, at least, say 150,000 miles. When you see new cars, they last 200,000, 300,000 miles. You know, back in the day when this car was new, that was actually pretty good. You know, if you got 150,000 miles out of your car, you know, you toss it, you know, but VWs, they would rebuild them and keep going. So they were actually better than most cars were in that respect. But there is a better way to do things. What these cases have, and one of the things that we do in racing, is we'll take the center mains where you have these two bolts here, and what they have is it's like a shim that goes in the middle, a cylinder that goes in the middle of the case, and it's called a shuffle pin. And what that does is it locks the two case halves together so that that there's less movement, because you have those like a cylinder and a sleeve, basically locking the cases cast together so it can't move. That's only done on the center main when you're doing a upgrade to your engine with a magnesium case. These have all shuffle pins on all 6 mains. So every one where there's a bolt here in the middle, there's shuffle pins in the center of that case. That case is not moving. It's super strong. These are far superior to the engineering, in my opinion, of the original case. So when you build one of these, you know, I was talking to my friend and he says, that's not a bulletproof engine, that's a lifetime engine. And it kind of goes that way because you can have a lot longer engine life and wear by using one of these cases. Now you do add some weight. You lift one of these up compared to a magnesium case, it's quite a bit heavier. The other disadvantage is you also have potential to have hotter oil temperature. Now with today's oil, it can handle a bit more heat than the old stuff they used to have. So maybe that was one of the reasons that the VW didn't use it. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to add cooling to it. We're going to put double coolers in. We're going to have way more cooling than this engine originally had. So this together, those things can solve all those issues and you can have a much stronger engine. The other thing I found in my engines that I have aluminum cases is I have less valve adjustment to do. So every time I go to check the valves, they're usually spot on. They hardly move at all. And it's because the aluminum here, you have aluminum heads, you have steel in the middle, you have, and I use chromoly push rods. All those things together, nothing really moves. So very rarely you'll have to actually adjust the valves, even though I check them every 6,000 miles, just like you should anyways, or even less than that. But you know, you should check your valves still, but there's less movement, less adjustment to do. So it is really nice to have an aluminum case. I swear by these. I tell you, you know, I think if you're going to do it, you know, it's a little bit of money to buy, but it's one of those things that, you know, it kind of puts you in another league with the Volkswagen engine. So with this case, you can actually go up to an 82. It's already clearance for all that stuff. It comes with 90.5 or 94 openings, or you can even get a stock one if you want, but they don't sell that one particularly in a bubble top. They have that one without the bubble top. This is called a bubble top case because it actually is clearance for all those things. So it actually is an overkill case for what we're doing. The reason why we're using this case versus using the stock one is if I bought a stock case, stock aluminum, and we're going 90.5, by the time I had it machined to be open for 90.5s, I would have just paid the same amount for this. So it's basically the same price as doing the other way. So we went ahead and went with this. The other thing that's nice about these is they come right here. This is the plug. You just take this plug out and you put your full flow setup in it. It's already done. So there's no machining. You don't have to take it down to the machine shop, have them do all this stuff. It's already done. So everything you would like to have on your case is already done. So if you're out of state, you know, it's just like, why just get one of these? It's just going to save you a lot of hassle. So anyway, and the line bore lasts for literally forever on these. I don't even know if we used to do Type 4s, and the Type 4s would hardly ever come out of a line bore. So 74 crankshaft. I'll tell you real quick why we went 74. We could have went 78. Some of you guys are going to be asking this question early in the video. You're going to be, why didn't you just go to 78? Because we are using stock heads. Stock heads have a smaller combustion chamber. Okay? And we're using stock heads because we have some that are good. We're going to have the stock head step cut to get enough combustion chamber so that we don't have a huge amount of space between the piston and the top of the cylinder, which I call barrel fire. We don't want a lot of barrel fire because that creates detonation and heat and stuff like that we don't really want to do. So we're going to try and keep it right at about 60 thousandths deck height, which is what the stock engine was. So if we go with this setup, we're going to be pretty close to that. I'm hoping. We don't know until we get it all put together. Theoretically, there's one thing, and then there's actually, when you actually do the work, you sometimes find out things are a little different. So theoretically, we should be very close to 60 thousandths with just a little bit of shim, and we can run everything else in the head. And so to do that, we're going to have a 54 cc combustion chamber. So I'm having the heads that we have, because I have access to doing this, or if you had to do this, you might as well just buy the heads, okay? Buy the AA Performance big valve heads. Now, to do that, just so you know, it's about $1,000 more, because you have to do the heads, you got to do stuff to your valves. You're gonna have to either use lash caps, or you're gonna have to use elephant adjusters, because you have stainless steel exhaust valves. So all those things all have to go together. So we're not going there because of that reason. It adds $1,000 to this build. We have heads, so we're going to stay with that. So we're going for a 54cc combustion chamber. That'll put us out at 8.6 to 1. Still a very nice, decently low compression engine that's going to work out real nice. So we're going about 8.6 is what we're hoping. We don't know how it's going to turn out exactly, but that's what we're going for. 8.6 to 1. 74 counterweighted. 8 dowels. Your stock crankshaft only has 4, and these have 8. So now you've got Porsche engineering, basically, because we're using a counterweighted 74. That's what was in your Porsche 912. Similar to this, I guess. It's a little different, but similar. We're also using very close to the Porsche length rods. These are actually 5325 rods, okay? And what that does is that makes it so we don't have to have a ton of shims in here. It comes out really nice with the 5325 rods. You can use the 5.4 rods, but you'll end up with close to 125 thousandths roughly. I'm just saying this theoretically. Theoretically and actual are different. So you end up with about 125 thousandths in shims. So, or let's see, what's the difference? 5325 and 5.4 is, well, I guess it's less than that, probably 75 thousandths in shims, okay, at least, plus the additional shim to get 60 thousandths deck height, which usually it's a little more than that, so you'll end up with, yeah, maybe 80 to 100 thousandths in shims, something like that, roughly. So we don't want to, we're just going to avoid that. It's much easier to get 5325s, easier to do. And it becomes out similar to the 912 engine. So you got, 912, 74, almost 912 rods. The 912 rods are, I think, 27 thousandths longer. I mean, it's nothing. So anyway, we're going cast 8 dowel. We could just drill another flywheel, but we like to go with, when we're using counterweighted crank, they're heavier, and the engineering of this is so that the counterweight takes up some of the stress. So having a lighter flywheel is great to do also as well, and it seems to spin really nice and work really well with a counterweighted crankshaft. I think those two things go together. That's what I always like to run. So with this one here, because of lack of not having them, I'm going with these chromoly case studs. I didn't have any 8mm ones. The nice thing about them, I just realized they come with nuts. So if you buy this hardware kit right here, okay, you're going to find out that the nuts that come in here, I know for the 10mm ones, are absolutely horrible. So these hardware kits are nice. They really work out well, but the nuts for the heads are pretty much garbage. It's nice that these ones come with this. I'm sure these chromoly ones are going to be a lot better than what comes in that little kit there. So we got a hardware kit, new 10 screws. We're going doghouse. So we have a doghouse cooler, brand new, A&A. All this stuff is from AA Performance. The best deals on this stuff is pretty much at CarCraft. We're also doing, on this engine, we're going with AN fittings, which is what these are in here. I'll get one out so you can see. AN fittings and 1,000-pound double braided. This is steel braided and nylon braided hose. That stuff ain't going anywhere. 1,000-pound rated. So we're going to use that for the oil, because we're also going to do full flow. We're going to put a fitting in here. We're going to go full flow on this one. So next thing, 90.5 AA cast pistons. They'll be fine for this. They'll last a long time. They don't make a forged piston or real. They have pressure casted forged. They don't really have a forged piston unless you go to really expensive ones. So we're trying to stay under the price point and still be what I consider a bulletproof engine for the street. So the lifters you might see here, oh, these are used. These are actually reground German lifters. These work fantastic. I have never had a cam and lifters that was reground for a Volkswagen ever go flat. Never. But I have seen, I'm not going to say who, I have seen other ones that did. So I watched one go flat right in front of me, and it was not a Volkswagen one. It was by another company that makes parts. Not saying who it was. A little clue. But anyway, they had these camera lifter kits that went out for a while, and a bunch of guys ended up with flat cams. I heard about it from several different people. So when we get our heads, we're going to be putting these new single high rev springs in, because we are going for an Engel 100 grind. So basically this is a stock cam, and what they do is they regrind it to an Engel 100 profile, and they do it by taking some off of the low side of the lobe, taking more off of this side, and so they can allow more clearance to do this side. Works fantastic. This is a really old trick, you guys. This is back from the 80s. Guys were doing this all the time. There was a bunch of different cam grinders that would do it. And I read forums on there. Well, how do you know it's a real Engel 100? It's like, they've been doing it long enough, guys. These guys know what they're doing, okay? This is no new trick. This has been around a long, long time, and it works. These things are legit. I mean, pretty much Engel 100. The best part is, too, is it comes with a cam gear already on it. And this one happens to be a 0, so it shouldn't have an issue. It might not have an issue with lash. If it does, and we just take off the rivets, we thread this here, and then we recess cut these. I'll cut the, step cut these down, and then put bolts on it, and change the cam gear. Had to do that a few times, but not very often. So this right here, the cam and lifters from Brothers Machine Shop today. I think it was, I'm going to say 75 or 60, less than 80 bucks. Okay. Can't buy cam lifters, performance cam lifters anywhere for that. So that saves a lot on the budget, guys. Engel 100 is a great grind. If you guys didn't know, the Engel 110 is 430 lift, advertised, which means that's with the 1.1 stock rockers. Okay. It's 430 lift and 283 duration, I believe. Maybe I get these numbers wrong, but I'm very close. The Engel 100 is 420 lift, so it's really not that much different, and 273 duration. A lot of cams in that range, the 273 duration and 100 or 420 lift, or I've seen 400 lift, and I've seen up to I think my Web 86 is like 448 advertised duration or lift, because I have ratio rocker 1.25s. We didn't want to go there, guys. If we go there, we end up with a whole bunch more cost. So the 100 has 420 lift, and the Web 86 has 268, I think, duration. A little more lift, a little less duration. This one's a little less lift, a little more duration. Very close. They're all really, really close together, guys. It's not that much difference. So the Engel 100 is a great cam. It's a really nice, inexpensive way to get good performance out of your car. So the 90.5 pistons, we got these 10 set up. You might go, well, those doghouse, fake doghouse things. You know what's nice about these is you can actually reach behind here a lot easier Well, on this side, you don't have to reach behind and do the bolt because the case is threaded on this one. But it's a lot easier to get around here, especially when you have dual carbs. Reaching around the backside of the shroud with one of these shrouds is really nice. In fact, I don't think they make any more of the aftermarket full-size shrouds. I couldn't find them anywhere. Maybe they do. You can comment below because I did not see them anywhere. But this was economical, and it is a doghouse. We have all the doghouse parts for it, so we went with that. We're going full flow, so I went ahead and got the 72 pass cooler with the fan, and then instead of buying the whole kit, it's actually a little bit cheaper to do this way. So I've got this housing, which is the one that I wanted, with the hoses going from the top, because I'm going to have this setting sideways in the frame rail. Okay, and I can choose what I want, right? And then I got this from AA, which I get a really good deal on these, and it's cast steel, so a little stronger. You know, got to remember the original cam gears were on a steel plate, so all you guys go to aluminum, and you know, is it good? It probably is fine, but I don't know. I like this. It was less expensive. And then, so I got the thermostat too. So I got the thermostat and this and that separate, and it ended up being a lot cheaper for me. So that's because, I don't know, my sources, it was less. So sometimes it's cheaper to buy the whole kit, but I didn't want to go there. So we're using stock pushrod tubes. I really like these. I have no issues with them leaking. I have issues with all the other ones that slide together. I don't like those. They like to leak a lot, so I don't like them. So, Silverline main bearings, Silverline dual thrust cam bearings, and I have a set of Klobenschmidt. They're not out here, but I have a set of Klobenschmidt original rod bearings. So I'm using Klob rods. I'm using Silverline mains, so, and Silverline cam and dual thrust. So that's what we're using on that. They're all good. I mean, the Silverline, I don't know. I say the Klob is a little bit better, okay, for your rod bearings if you can get them. Sometimes you just can't get them, so I'll go with Silverline. So it's not that much different, but anyway, I try to go with the Klob rod bearings. I got the bolt kit to install the engine. These are pretty nice because it comes with the one that's always missing. So, also got the clutch. Now this clutch is the 1,700 pound AA Performance made clutch kit they make now. So it's really nice. They used to just make this part, and then you used to have to get the Exceedy clutch. And they make this now, and God, the quality of that looks really pretty darn good. I mean, it's pretty well made. I'd say this thing is probably right up there with the Exceedy. I don't know. We'll find out, right? And then it comes with a throwout bearing as well. I think this is an upgraded throwout bearing, late model. So anyway, comes with all these things in a kit. I think CarCraft has these as well. You can check their website. The other thing we're going to use here is we're using the Cool 10, Super Cool 10, or Type 3, or 10 for your engine. The reason we like these is, see these little deflectors right here? It allows air to go all the way around your head. These holes right here around your cylinders. Okay, little question here for you guys. Where does the heat in your engine get created the most? In the heads or in the cylinders? All right. The answer is the fire happens in the head. So the head is the hottest part of the engine. So it's the thing that you want to take care of the most. So what this thing does is it meters the air going around your cylinders. This was developed on a Type 3, but it was also used in Porsches, and they had a similar thing in the Type 4 engine. So the guys go, oh, those things don't work. Volkswagen had a bulletin out, and it says that those things are junk and they don't work, and blah, blah, blah. Right. So they started using it in the Type 3 and the Porsche. I don't know about that. we did test these years ago and found out that they do work. So anyway, if you're wondering. It was a long time ago, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but definitely it was running cooler with these than the other. So it limits the air, takes it all the way around the cylinder. It goes all the way around the cylinder and goes through this metered hole. And then that maxes out the pressurization going through your cylinders. And then the rest of the air goes forcing through your heads, which is going to help your engine run cooler. Just my opinion. Everybody's got an opinion on it. A lot of guys are using them, especially when you have performance exhaust. If you have performance exhaust, you're probably going to have to go this direction, because if you just use the little deflector plate that goes underneath the cylinders, you end up with a big gap about this wide for air to come out, and believe me, you're losing efficiency there for sure. We're also going with a 60 amp alternator kit, so we'll have a brand new alternator, brand new alternator stand. All comes AA Performance, makes those, imports those. They're pretty good quality. I found out those are probably better than the old generators. I'll get differences in opinion on that too, but that's the parts we're using. And the alternator kit just so happens to come with a chrome pulley, even though we don't like chrome. That's what it's getting. So it comes with a chrome pulley and nut. The belt, no, we don't use that belt. Belts, Continental, that's the only one I use. So either that or sometimes I'll use Gates. But anyway, I think we've got everything covered in this. But yeah, we're going to have a really nice engine. The goal of this engine is it's going in a bus. We're going for torque. Okay. We're going for a little bit of top end. I did have some guys that had some questions on the last video. And one is, why did I go single port instead of dual port? This one we're going dual port. Okay. Honestly, if you don't care how it looks, if you don't mind that it has a dual port look, dual port is always going to give you more horsepower, which is also at the same time going to give you more torque. When you have more horsepower, you can have more torque all together. You know, total. More horsepower can create more torque, but you'll have a higher torque ratio with a single port. So I'm just trying to say, if you don't mind going dual port, and if you don't mind the look of dual port engine, always go dual port, you guys. The only reason I went on the bucket truck, I went single port, is because I wanted the look of single port. The other reason I'll go single port is if I don't have any dual port heads. If I have dual port heads and money's not an issue, or both, I will go dual port all the time. Dual port will give you more performance. The heads we're using are opened up to 90.5. They're also step cut to give you more combustion chamber. The other issue you're going to run into when you go bigger in the engine, the bigger the engine you build. So if you want to build a 2007 or 2174, I can't remember the next size. If you want to go bigger, you have to have a larger combustion chamber in your head. That's when you're going to go for the AA Performance or the Panchito 60cc heads. The Panchitos are a little more expensive. The AA Performance they have at CarCraft. The Panchitos are available at CB Performance. Now, the difference is really, look, they're both good heads. The Panchito has a better aluminum. The ones from AA, the aluminum is not as pure, okay? But they're fine. A lot of good head builders are using the AA Performance heads. I think the old Steve Timms heads came off of a AA Performance head. So, and I think Greg is still using that, and he's very particular, you guys. He does an excellent job building engines. He's one of the best guys around, and those heads are fine. They're fine. The Panchitos, they have two different options. I think you get 57cc. I think it's 57, or you can get the 60cc, and I think you have to pay extra. So you have to look at all the little bells and whistles there and figure out what you want to do. Panchitos are definitely better heads. You know, these ones here, I'm also going to port them. So we'll be doing a video on porting heads. I'm going to actually open them up a bit. We're going to give them a little bit of breathing room through there, get a little bit of flow. You don't need to do that much of it, but I'm going to tell you, the time you spend porting, if you just took a stock engine, you put a cam and you did porting to it, it'll change the whole engine totally. You go to angle 100, you have a stock 1600 dual port, and you port the heads and you put an angle 100 in it, that thing will come alive. It just won't even be the same engine. You won't even recognize it. And that's without going bigger or any of that stuff. And something like this 1904 can have plenty of power. It can get you around town really nice. It's not going to get you down the track super fast, but you could do some stuff to one of these 1904s and really, really, really make a fast engine. Or you can punch it out to the 1968, which is the 92s. But again, if you do that, you kind of run into a threshold where you need a larger combustion chamber, or you're going to have really high compression. And for the street, it's, you know, then you're going to have to go with new heads. So that's really the best way to look at it. Somebody asked me another question earlier, another video. A valve, I've got stock chromoly push rods here. I forgot to mention those. We got stock chromoly push rods. Stock length. Okay. A lot of times you have to do cut to fit. I don't know if I'm going to have to or not. But most of the time, when you do your mock-up with this setup, you're going to end up pretty close if you have the stock ones, stock length. Because you have the short rods, you got a 74 crank. Okay, you put this together, and your deck height's going to be near stock, very close. Very, very close to stock with short rods in the 74 crank. And as long as you're not using anything like ratio rockers or anything like that, when you put it together, you can rotate it around and look at it and see if we may show this in the next video, where we actually rotate the engine around with the stock push rods, and we'll look at when the push rod hits the valve, okay, and where it is on the valve, and then rotate it and then see where it finishes on the valve. And if it's near the center, we're good to go. You don't always, like, guys go, well, you need to, you know, do your whatever that is with the gauge and check it all. You can do it by eye and get it really, really close and be okay. You just got to look at it's all about this. It's all about where the rocker hits the valve. You're trying to keep it centered in the valve and not be off to one side, because if it's off to one side, it's going to push the valve sideways, and then that causes your valves to wear. So if you have it hitting in the center pretty close, it doesn't need to be 100% right on. If it's just very, very close and you use stock push rods, you're probably okay. So if you don't change the width, and you don't have too many shims, and you don't have all this other stuff, you're probably going to be pretty close. That's all I'm going to say. And not a really big cam. There's a lot of things in that combination, but this setup usually gets you pretty close with stock push rods, and we will find out later. And on the bucket truck, the 1800, it ended up being very, very close to, you know, perfect. So, yeah. All right. That's it for this, guys. I'll talk to you in this one. Please like, share, and subscribe.